In this video, I'm going to show you how to use a DeWALT heavy-duty staple and brad nailer. So this is a new piece of kit we've just bought, and we're just going to show you what staples it'll take, how it functions. It'll take staples and brad nails. So we're just going to go through and see how good it is firing in some different types of staples, and we'll show you how to load your brad nails in and just see if it's adequate to put brad nails in. I'm used to using a 18-volt nail gun, so it'll be interesting to see if we can get the same results with this stapler and brad gun. So here we go, let's give it a quick test. First thing we're going to do is load up our staples. So we've got two different types of staples here that both fit in our gun. If you look on the side of your gun, it tells you what staples and what brads it'll take. So this will take some heavy duty type G staples, and they can range from 6mm long to 14mm long. So we've got our heavy duty G packet here. These are our staples that came in the box. As you can see, they've no point on the end, and they are, should say how long these are, 14mm long. So they are exactly up to the limit of what this staple gun can put in. So they'll be good to test it out. So we've got our type G, and then we've also got some T50 staples. It'll also take those, and I think they're the most common type of staples you'll come across. These are likely to be the old ones you have in your drawer. I think the more modern ones, they label up with a G. And these ones are slightly different. They're not just as long, but they have these sort of pointed edges, so they should drive into the wood a little bit better. But we'll test that out. And then we've also got some 15mm brads. As you can see, again on here on this little instruction plate, it'll take 12mm to 15mm 18 gauge brads. So these nails I'd normally use in my 18-volt Hikoki brad nailer. So we'll just see if the DeWALT stapler can put them in just as easily. So first of all, we'll try our standard type G staples. These are the longest ones that will fit in our DeWALT staple gun. So if it'll sink these in, you should be fine with any length of staple. So first thing you need to do to put the staples in, push down this button here at the back. That slides your loading tray out. And then you simply have to drop your staples in there like that. Make sure they're the right way around, that way in, not like that. So drop those in there to the loading chamber, and then slide this back in until it clicks. Now our staples are loaded. We'll just give it a quick blast and see how well you can put these staples in. Go for this corner. So as you can see, it's put our staple in fairly flush with the surface. If you were stapling something to this piece of pine, then that would hold it securely in position. So that's our first type of staple. We'll now switch those out for our T50s. These have got slightly serrated edge, but they still fit the dimensions of our staple gun. Slot them in the same procedure. And we'll just put one next to it, and we'll see how well it performs. So that's our first staple, that's our second staple. Again, you can see it's nice and flush with the surface. In fact, our second staple might have gone in a little bit deeper just due to the points on the staples. So if you're wanting to really sink your staples in, I would choose a variety with the points on. Another little benefit of this DeWALT staple gun is that you can see how many staples are left through this little viewing window here at the edge of your staple gun, which is quite a handy feature. And while we're on the subject of features, you can also lock your staple gun in the secure position using this little flick handle here. Simply flick that on. That holds your lever in place, stops the staple gun from going off accidentally. And the other feature this staple gun has is a handy little belt clip. So you can clip it to your belt, and the design of this I really love. And you can clip it to your belt and look super cool on a construction site. So we've tested it out on our softwood. We're just going to test these staples out on some hardwood. This is probably a little bit more difficult than you would normally subject the staple gun to, but because we're testing it on YouTube, we'll give it a whirl. So there you go. So that's a solid piece of ash. As you can see, it's put that staple in flush with the top surface. Again, we've used the T50 staples with our slightly pointed edge. So I'm presuming that that helps it sink into hardwood a little bit easier. We'll just try it with our G staples. These are a little bit longer and they've no sharp edge. So we'll just see if it can put our staple into hardwood the same. As you can see, it's not just as tight down to the surface there's still a little air gap between. So if you are stapling to hardwood, I'd highly recommend the T50s with a pointed edge. The flat-ended staples at 14 millimeters long, you might just struggle getting into hardwood. Now, the feature you all wanted to know about is how good it can put brads in. So we're going to get this gun loaded up and try and fire some. So once you slide out your loading tray, it'll say load brads with 2 arrows indicating which side of the gun you need to load your brads into. So we've got our gun there. We need to put our brads down this side. So we take our brad nails, put the head of the nail into the gun first, and then as you slide down, the black tray will just slide over the top of the nails, securing them in place. So we're all loaded up with our brad nails. We're back on our softwood now to just give it its first test, and we'll pop a brad nail here next to our little staple selection. So now our staples, as you can see, it's put the brad nail in fairly well. It's just slightly proud of the surface, but you could always knock that in with a nail punch. So it still performed fairly well, considering that I bought a £400 brad nailer to do the same job. So we'll just try it in some hardwood and some MDF and just see if this staple gun is suitable for putting brads in. So now we've got our hardwood with our 2 staples. We'll just try a brad. As you can see, it's sunk the brad in, but again, as with the second staple, it's just slightly proud. You'd always knock that in with a hammer and a punch, but it's still done a fairly good job considering it's only a cheap staple gun. And then finally, we'll just do a quick test in MDF because that's something that a lot of people use for craft projects and home DIY install. So the brad nails that this will take only go up to 15 millimeters, so it's not really practical for doing all your finishing carpentry trim work, but there are certain uses where 15mm brad is actually quite handy. So sometimes you'll be fixing a piece of 1/4 inch MDF to a piece of 3/4 inch MDF. You don't want your brad nail to go all the way through the work pieces. So if you position your MDF, take your brad nailer, we'll just try and pop a few brads in here. So because we're only going in 15 millimeters deep, our nails haven't stuck out the other side. And as you can see, it's fairly firmly fixed our 1/4 inch MDF to our 3/4 inch MDF. So for light brad work, it definitely passes the test. If you're only going to use it occasionally to install brads, then I'd say it's a really handy feature to have on what is really mainly a staple gun.